horror demon. It was a cold, moonless night when Emily first moved into the old abandoned house on the outskirts of town. The house, once grand and filled with life, had been empty for over 50 years. Now it stood as a decaying relic, its windows boarded up and its paint peeling away like the skin of a forgotten corpse. But for Emily, the house seemed like the perfect place to start over, away from the bustling city and the memories of her past. The first few days were quiet. The house creaked and groaned as if it were settling into its new owner. Emily spent her time cleaning and arranging the old furniture she had found in the attic, trying to make the place feel like home. But as the days passed, a strange unease began to settle over her. At night, when the wind howled outside, Emily would hear faint whispers, voices too low to understand, but chilling nonetheless. She told herself it was just the wind, the house settling, or maybe even her mind playing tricks. But the whispers grew louder, more persistent, until one night, as she lay in bed, wide awake, she heard something different, a slow, heavy breathing. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding in her chest. The room was pitch black, the only sound the rhythmic exhale of the breath. She scanned the darkness but saw nothing. She told herself it was just a figment of her imagination, a trick of the night. But then she heard it again, a low growl, followed by a voice hoarse and guttural. "Leave this place." Emily froze. The voice seemed to come from the very walls, echoing through the empty rooms of the house. It was as if something, or someone, was trapped inside, trying to communicate. But who, or what, could it be? Determined to uncover the truth, Emily began researching the history of the house. The local library was her next stop. The old librarian, a thin gray-haired woman named Mrs. Waverly, seemed unusually eager to help. "The house you've moved into," she said, her voice low, "has a dark history. You should leave before it's too late." Mrs. Waverly told Emily the story of the house's original owner, a man named Victor Graves. Graves was known for his strange obsession with the occult and the supernatural. It was said that he had conducted dark rituals in the house, attempting to summon a demon to grant him immortality. But the ritual went horribly wrong, and Graves vanished, leaving behind only bloodstains and the scent of sulfur. As Emily listened, a chill ran down her spine. She began to understand that the house was not merely haunted. It was cursed. The demon Graves had tried to summon had been bound to the house, and it was waiting, lurking in the shadows, for someone to unlock its prison. The next few days were filled with a growing sense of dread. Emily couldn't escape the feeling that she was being watched, even in broad daylight. Every corner of the house seemed to whisper her name, and the shadows grew longer as dusk approached. She would often catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of her eye, fleeting shadows that disappeared when she turned to face them. One evening, as Emily was walking through the house, a cold gust of wind suddenly slammed the door to the parlor shut behind her. She spun around, startled, but before she could react, she felt something. A presence, a cold, oppressive weight in the air. As she turned to leave, the door refused to open. Her heart raced as she tugged at the handle, but it was as if the door had locked itself from the inside. She was trapped. Panicking, Emily backed away from the door. That's when she saw it. A figure, tall and impossibly thin, standing in the far corner of the room. It was shrouded in darkness, its eyes glowing with an eerie red light. The figure's face was twisted in agony, as if it had been pulled from the depths of hell itself. It raised a hand, and in that moment, Emily felt a sharp pain shoot through her chest, as though something had sunk its claws into her very soul. With all her strength, She managed to break free from the room and escape into the hallway. Her body was trembling, her skin cold with terror. But as she ran down the stairs, the house seemed to warp and shift around her. The walls closed in, and the very air felt thick with malevolent energy, like the house itself was alive, watching her every move. That night, the demon made its presence known more clearly than ever before. Emily awoke to find her room freezing cold, her breath visible in the air. The whispers were louder now, and this time they were clearer, angry, desperate. The walls trembled as if the house itself was alive. A dark figure emerged from the corner of the room, its eyes glowing with an unnatural red light. It was the demon, tall, shadowy, with elongated limbs and a face twisted in torment. Its voice was a low rasp, like 1,000 voices speaking in unison, each one more terrifying than the last. "You should not have come," it hissed. "Now you are mine." Emily tried to scream, but no sound came. She attempted to run, but her body felt paralyzed, as if the very air around her was thick with an invisible force. The demon inched closer, its cold fingers reaching out, touching her skin. Every part of her body screamed in terror, but she couldn't move. Suddenly the whispers grew louder, almost deafening, as if the entire house was alive with the voices of the damned. Then, in a flash of blinding light, Emily remembered something from Mrs. Waverly's story, a way to break the curse. She had to perform the ritual that Victor Graves had failed to complete. With every ounce of strength she could muster, Emily broke free from the demon's grip. She scrambled out of the room and ran down to the basement, where the ritual had begun so many years ago. There, she found the ancient altar, its stone surface still stained with the blood of Victor Graves. She gathered the old books and ingredients she had found in the attic, and with trembling hands, she began the ritual. As she recited the incantations, the demon's furious howls echoed from above. The air crackled with energy, and the house shook violently. Just as she reached the final words of the incantation, the demon appeared at the top of the stairs, its red eyes burning with hatred. But it was too late. The moment the ritual was completed, a burst of light filled the room, and the demon let out a deafening scream. The shadows around it melted away, and the creature vanished, banished back to the depths of hell from which it had come. The house fell silent. The oppressive, suffocating air lifted, and the whispers faded into nothingness. Emily collapsed on the basement floor, exhausted and trembling. The curse had been broken, but she knew one thing for certain. The demon had not been defeated, only imprisoned once again. It would wait, patiently, for another soul foolish enough to unlock the door to its world. As Emily left the house for good, she couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was watching her from the windows. And deep in the shadows, she knew the demon was still waiting. The end.